You know what the story is about? It's really about the media. That's my take on this pipe bombing in New York. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Happy Monday. We made it through the weekend. Well, barely. My goodness. World is on fire, but fear not. We are here in Central Command, keeping tabs on things for you. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email, at What's Right Sam on X. All right, so here's what happened. This was on Saturday. Jake Lang, who is admittedly a bit of a troll. He's a right-wing troll guy. He was one of the violent J6ers, okay? He was hitting officers with an aluminum bat. Not a good guy. The left calls him a white supremacist. He had a rally outside the mayoral mansion in New York. This is the residence, the official residence of the mayor of New York, called Gracie Mansion. And it was a rally. There's like 20 people there, okay? It was nothing. And this, by the way, got the headlines. Now, it's okay. So there was an Islamic takeover of New York City. That was a much larger event. And two counter protesters, okay, threw improvised explosive devices toward the Lang-led protesters, okay? One of the devices was ignited and thrown. It produced smoke, and it failed to fully detonate. The New York PD bomb squad came out, determined that at least one was an actual honest-to-goodness bomb, and it contained shrapnel, which included nuts, bolts, nails, and screws. This is the type of bomb that, for example, during the Boston Marathon was used, killed and maimed a number of people. One of the suspects allegedly shouted, "Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest," as he was throwing the device. Okay? So the guys get arrested, right? Two young men, 18-year-old named Amir Balat and a 19-year-old Ibrahimin Kuyami. All right, different spellings across different reports. Some say they're from Pennsylvania. Now, if you go to the media about this, if you go to the headlines, well, first of all, it's all about the white supremacist guy, right? I'm not saying, but the right-wing guy, obviously, he gets smeared. And then when it's talking about, we literally have what amounts to a terror attack in New York City, and everybody's brushing it under the rug. The New York Times headline, "Smoking jars of metal and fuses thrown at protest near mayor's house." Ha ha ha. How about CBS? "Suspicious devices ignited during protests near Manhattan's Gracie Mansion." Well, NBC wasn't any better. Two in custody after suspicious devices lit outside Gracie Mansion amid anti-Islam protest. So what you have here, and just to be clear, the so-called white supremacist, the right-wing guy, somebody I'm not here to defend, that's not the point of it. They get attacked by the feral pets of the mainstream media, and once again, the media carries water for the extremists, the real extremists. The headlines are all focused on maximum detail information with minimum character development. The character development here is kind of important, right? You've got two Islam guys, all right, that are throwing IEDs. Gosh, they sure sound like a couple of jihadis to me, right? And by the way, they are the ones here accused of actual malicious criminal acts. But the MSM doesn't want you to imagine the true situation. They want you to live in fantasy land, okay? Michael Malice, he likes to say the mainstream media is factual but not truthful. Nothing in the headlines is factually incorrect. In fact, the wording can be entirely factually defensible, but it is intended to distort the truth, right? And, well, it brings me obviously to the fact that the real story here, aside from, a terror attack happening in New York that nobody knows about apparently, is that we had a Islamic takeover, and literally that's what the event was called, of New York City. Islamists taking to the streets. And what is it? A celebration? Is that what it is? Of Islam taking over the West in a unholy alliance with democratic socialists, one of whom happens to be in the mayoral mansion. That's right. On some Sunday, a day after this all went down, Mamdani released a statement, quote, "Yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City," the mayor added. "It is an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are." Hey, Mamdani, I have an idea for you. Just a thought here from your friend Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right show. Maybe the city values New York, what it is, has less, is threatened less by an idiot like Jake Lang, and is far more threatened by organized terrorist violence, the like of which is an actual honest to goodness bomb that was thrown outside of your house by one of your Islamic socialist compatriots. Isn't it funny how the mayor doesn't decry actual violence? A bomb was thrown. It smoldered, and by the grace of God, it didn't detonate. If it had, multiple people would have been dead and certainly many grievously injured. It is a blatant criminal act, in other words. But what is Mamdani focused on? This is what the left does. They focus on hateful rhetoric, words. And I've always said this. By the way, just a little aside, putting on the lawyer hat, remember the left wants to make words a bigger deal, a greater assault, a greater harm than actual physical violence. And it's very easy. It's very easy for us conservatives to just dismiss this as them being silly, quote unquote. But the real purpose behind it is that should these people ever get control of the Supreme Court, mark my words, you can literally save this date and time. Monday, March 9th. I'm telling you this. What they will do, if they seize control of the Supreme Court, is redefine the First Amendment. And they will make it that hate speech, right? Meaning anything that you say that is a criticism of them or of their power, hate speech. In fact, they will say it causes an actual physical harm to the target of the speech, and thereby can be regulated by the government. For now, and constitutionally, this is how our founders intended it, and it's what the current law says. Pretty much, unless you cause an imminent harm, an actual imminent harm with speech, the government can't prevent you from saying things, can't restrict the content of what you say. So this is where they're headed, and it is always crystal clear when you have a moment like this. Actual violence doesn't get mentioned. An actual bomb swept under the rug. The mainstream media, together with a democratic socialist, all saying the same thing. Carrying water for jihadists, right? And look, sidebar, it's also protecting their multicultural fantasy, right? We're going to import a bunch of people. People aren't going to want to assimilate. They're going to bring their values and ignore ours. Just wait. It's going to get wild. Now, let me say one more thing here about Comrade Mamdani, folks. Mamdani has, if he's got a problem on his hands. You hear this thing about his wife, what she said? No, this was, and they called him out on it. I loved that the media actually asked him. There was a reporter, and it was a softball question, but at least he brought it up. Mamdani, his wife, is a radical herself. And it's, she had her name is Rama Duwaji. And she liked a February 2024 social media post that claimed Hamas's rape of Israelis during the October 7th attack was a massive hoax. Look, she did. This is a reporter went and found where this wife of Mamdani had taken all these extremist positions, right? This is not something that's isolated there, but at any rate, so here's what happened. It's called it a mass hoax. She liked it. She thought it was a hoax. I guess Hamas didn't really, just kind of walked over there into Israel and did not much of anything. Anyway, Mamdani gets asked about it. Question and answer right here.
You should have a chance, I think, to respond to this. It's an off-topic question. I'd like to know what your reaction was to the article in the Jewish Insider that was posted about your wife's social media activity. And what I'm wondering is, you're an elected official. She is not. Is it anybody's business, and is it fair to question you about it?
My wife is the love of my life, and she's also a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in my city hall. I, however, was elected to represent all 8.5 million people in this city, and I believe that it's my responsibility, because of that role, to answer any questions about my thoughts and my policies and my decisions.
Yeah, that must be nice. God, no politician. Poor Trump. Melania has to answer for every little thing. I guess Trump should just say Melania is a private person. Melania doesn't take any extremist positions, and gosh knows she's trying to be as private as she can, and the media keep dragging her into things, because that kind of is what happens when your spouse is a prominent elected official. You see Meghan McCain sounding off about it. He literally, I think she dropped some expletives. Who the hell does this guy think he is? And she goes back, and how the press was constantly badgering her mom, Cindy McCain, when the guy, McCain was running for president, right? He was a prominent person, of course, a prominent member of the Senate for many years, and got a lot of flack. So, when John McCain was alive, Cindy McCain got a lot of negative attention from the media, and it was all relevant then. There are two sets of rules in this country, and it's on display with this pipe bombing and this counter protest. Euphemistic language used by the media to sweep under the rug an honest-to-goodness terror attack. Incidentally, on a Southwest Airlines flight from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale, did you hear about this? They had to divert to Atlanta, and it was kind of a horrifying scene. You see the videos. Somebody was recording it. A few people were recording it. Our officers stormed the plane, told passengers heads down, hands up. A guy was forcibly removed from the plane. You know what this was all about? This guy, well, there was a bomb threat. And you know, you would think, right? You would think that this story would get some amount of coverage. I don't know. I saw some video of this guy as he was being escorted out the plane. Was it a terror attack? We don't know. It's just as if there is zero interest about this. And conservative media asking the right question. Hey, is this the right time to be cutting funding for the Department of Homeland Security, which the Democrats are playing a dangerous game, a political game, over funding at a time when our nation is clearly under threat? Remember, and we've been covering this here on this program now for years, Biden opened the southern border. There were stories right away in 2021 of Iranian agents being intercepted at the border. And remember, you know, for every one interception, you've got to assume there's some multiple of people that aren't apprehended, right? And in this time, there were these agents that had been caught, people who are, you know, registered, you know, terrorists, and they were, you know, sort of nobody talked about it, right? The media didn't cover it, and it was, you know, it was alternative medias that brought the story up, and it had been verified and confirmed. And the belief, of course, is that for all the people that got away, for the people that, and by some even the Biden people released into the country, that was a huge part of the story. So anyway, these are sleeper cells, and they're here, and you know, we killed an Ayatollah. Now they've got a new one. The new one apparently found out yesterday. The new one is the son. This has been confirmed. There were some rumors last week that the son was already the junior Ayatollah had already been killed by strikes by Israel, by the U.S. That's, I think, not confirmed. It's not proven to be true. So he's been confirmed. He's being called a quite a radical, more advanced, more fervent guy than his dad was. So, you know, I mean, you can imagine that if there was a time for terrorists to strike in this country, it would be now. And also, you would think that the media would be talking about it. But the media is so desperate to, number one, carry water for the multicultural myth, right? Diversity myth. We need to be diverse. Diversity is our strength. When literally, when we import people into the country that hate us, it becomes a major weakness and a major problem. Okay? And then second, to cover their policies. The Democrats are still protecting the Biden-Harris legacy vis-a-vis the southern border. Yeah, there's a few Democrats who admit it, who say aloud that there was a problem with keeping the southern border secure. But you know, this is just madness, right? So holding up the funding, you know, it's going to get people killed. Department of Homeland Security funding. You know, Democrats have been blocking the funding reauthorization, and look, you know, we all have to be vigilant. I saw another story here about, you know, once again they did a terror assessment for Las Vegas, where I live, where I'm based, and you know, and I've said this for years. I think we're unfortunately a soft target here. And gosh forbid something big, you know, happens. You know, because we had an FBI for years that prioritized political monkey business over being an honest to goodness law enforcement agency. And fixing that and turning it on a dime is impossible. Is impossible. These institutions were absolutely corrupted by deep state actors. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I mean, that's really functionally what it is. All right, folks, I got to take a quick break here. All right, the What's Right Show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. As always, I, your host, Sam Mirejovsky, behind the What's Right microphone, Sam at what'srightshow.com, at What's Right Sam on X. Be right back.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. You know, I tell you about these insurance companies. There was a story, a national story that made some waves. A guy was so unhappy with his own insurance company, his homeowner's policy, that he had a fire. It's been about a year. They have done nothing. So he puts up a sign saying, "Our house burned down," gives the date, and he writes, "Fully insured at State Farm. All we have gotten is lies, denies, and delays." His words, not mine. Now, this is what I tell you. If you've been injured, if you've been hurt, get a lawyer. Don't mess around with it. Don't try to do it yourself. You know, and particularly, I get it. Conservatives think, personal injury lawyers, scum of the earth. Some of them are. That's true. You've got to be choosy. You got to pick the right one. And hey, look at this. You know me. Hopefully you trust me a little bit. You listen to me every day here on the What's Right show. This is my firm. Got a great team here. We have a number of our clients that are listeners of the program. You're part of a family. It's easy. It doesn't cost you any money up front. Okay. You can offload the process, which is, I think, more overwhelming than people realize. Phone calls, text messages, sending emails, getting documentation, doing recorded statements, and it's time, okay? And at the end of it, you still get screwed. So the ROI, the return on investment, is very low. You know what's a good investment? Hiring Sam and Ash Injury Law to take the whole thing over for you. Peace of mind, get what you deserve, get what's right, and move on with your life. SamandAshLaw.com, 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000. Sam and Ash Law, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks, at What's Right Sam, by the way, here on the What's Right Media Network. I don't know what to make of it, honestly, and I'm hearing different things from different people. All of my Washington contacts have something different to say about the Save America Act. All right, the Save Act. This is voter ID, and Trump, by the way, he just yesterday put out a tweet, or maybe it was Saturday, right? Was it Saturday? Anyway, he puts out a tweet over the weekend, and he says, "I'm not signing another bill until the Save Act gets done." Now, there's a component to this also playing out with the Paxton, Cornyn, and Thune drama. Thune, for his part, is saying, "I'm going to get this thing done if you endorse to Trump, if you endorse Cornyn." Cornyn's saying that he's willing to play ball in the filibuster to get the Save America Act done. There's some idea that this is some horse trading that's happening behind the scenes. But then, I sense that Paxton is doubling down, as he ought to. All right. So did Paxton turn his candidacy into a bargaining chip? I don't know. You don't run for office, all in, and do as well as Cornyn did with as much headwind as he had, to just drop out to save a bill. I don't care how important it is. So, if this plays out, that Paxton drops out, Cornyn flips 50 plus 1 votes in the Senate, the Save America Act passes. Okay. But I don't think that was the play. But I do think that one person here is enjoying the drama. And you know who that? I think Trump. Look, the longer that this drags out and the more Democrats that come out against the SAVE Act, and the longer they go on the record with their ridiculous positions. I mean, every day, every week, A bunch of prominent Democrats are out there saying, oh, yeah, you're too stupid to get ID. You're a married woman. You changed your name. Oh, my gosh. I mean, do you even know how to apply for a name change for your passport? I mean, it's both offensive, it's ridiculous, and I think it really exposes them for the frauds that they are, meaning the Democrats, how they like to run elections. So, I mean, by all means, keep the drama hot and heavy through the primaries here, and then and deliver a victory on this before the midterms. But it has to be in time to save the election. So that's my update on it. Keeping my eye on it for you as always to see what occurs. Now, Jesse Jackson was buried over the weekend. This is of course they couldn't help themselves. Of course. Well, it was Friday, right? So Biden, Obama, and Harris, a bunch of other people, but they all got so political. Jesse Jackson Jr., before the funeral even kicked off, specifically asked the speakers not to be political. But, I don't, you get Barack in there, you give him a microphone, you give him a platform, of course he's going to get political. And I'm watching him, and first of all, I don't hate anybody the way that the Democrats hate Trump. I think they're crazy. I mean, I do. When I run into people, out and about, and you mention the word, you say the T word, you say Trump, and you just immediately begin to see the body language. They start to like fritz, little eye twitch, and involuntary body spasms, and the anger. Like, I'm not invested. I never had this kind of anger, over Clinton or even over Obama. But we actually have righteous grounds to despise the man. I mean, Obama, you can be a bad president. You can be a bad president. You can be an absolute crap president, which I believe Obama was. Hated this country, sold us out, was an accelerated globalist, really turned us against each other by way of fomenting racial hatred. I mean, this. I don't have to relitigate that here. Bad president, and he gets rejected, at the polls after his second term. He gets his second term. People are fed up with it, and they vote for Trump. It was untested. They vote for Trump, and surprise to everybody, they were all crying there in the Biden White House. And what did Obama White House? What did Obama then do? Obama proceeds to kick off a sabotage of Trump's entire first term. This is not forgivable, and he belongs in jail. And so when I think about Obama, I'm setting this up. When I think about Obama, it's really an odious character. He wasn't happy just sabotaging the country in the 2 terms that he had in office. He then had to sabotage his successor. And the real FU to the country is that George W. Bush, for all his niceness, didn't do that to Obama, did he? Right? Bush says it was his time to leave town, to step away from the Klieg lights. It's plus or minus a direct quote. And that he was not going to make any comments in his post-presidency period. And of course, he kept it all in. Nice of George to do that. And then broke his own rules and criticized Trump left and right. They all piled on Trump because, of course, Trump and this movement that we support, that we enjoy, that we stand behind, was a reclaiming of the country from an era, actually, really a dark period in retrospect, first marred by George W. Bush, and then later, absolutely, the destruction absolutely continuing under Barack Hussein Obama. Okay, I'm just setting this. I'm setting the table. All right. So Obama gets up there. This is Obama, right? It's a funeral, and the dead guy's son literally says, "Hey, don't make it about politics." Well, here you go.
Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions. Another setback to the idea of the rule of law. An offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others.
You know what I think is unbelievable and unfathomable? None of what he's blabbing about. What I think is unfathomable is a president spying on his political opponent. I think wiretapping not just candidate Trump, but President-elect Donald J. Trump is so awful and odious that it makes the worst of what Democrats have accused Nixon of doing to seem like a walk through a flower park, okay? Nothing. I think taking a known falsehood, a lie lifted from your Secretary of State's presidential campaign and putting it into your intelligence services, the CIA, through the DNI, a story about Trump being compromised by the Russians and using it to spin off a impeachment process against your successor. Like it's not there's no dispute anymore. They knew it was a lie, and the lie goes up to Obama. Who the hell is this guy to lecture anybody? I mean, we're all focusing on the decorum of talking political crap at a funeral, but yeah, I still have to focus on the substance of what he said. All right. By the way, Biden showed up as well. Biden showed up as well, and I guess a lot of people of color at this funeral, as one might imagine, given they were burying the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And Biden decides to say this.
If I told you all earlier, when I was a kid, I had a cleft palate or club foot, none of you would have laughed. But it's okay to laugh at stuttering. I'm not being critical of you, but think about it. It's the one place where people think you're stupid. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my. Someone just put him away. He should be on mothballs. This man should not be allowed to speak. Of course, maybe this is how the Democrats really feel about people. Right? Has anybody thought about this? Well, what did Newsom say? Right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm just like you guys here, with my 1100 SAT. Wait, they think so little of their own voters. And that's why it's such a fraud. And the best part about Biden, he's losing his marbles, so he's starting to say the stuff out loud. Well, just the thing at the pool, right? Remember talking about the hairy legs, his hairy legs at the guy is nuts. But it's one racist trope after another. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you. Yeah, Biden Newsom, two peas in a pod for certain. Well, Well, you know what? He also got political. Okay, he got political too. He couldn't let it alone. Biden. This is his little political dig here.
This is bad times like now. We're in a tough spot, folks. We got an administration that doesn't share any of the values that we have. And I don't think I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. You know, we are digging ourselves out of every problem that you've created, okay? From inflation to a wide open southern border to a country filled with terrorists to the Middle East on fire. What absolute loser. And I have to say this, right? I know I hit Kristi Noem kind of hard last week, and I never liked her in the position, and I'm sticking with that. But can we just admit something, that Alejandro Mayorkas, who led the Department of Homeland Security under Obama, ought to be tried for treason, okay? So don't give me this, you know, oh my gosh, her plane, and oh my gosh, her this, and oh my gosh, Kristi Noem. And look, I don't like the whole weird thing with Corey Lewandowski any more than anybody else. I'm not here to defend any of that. I'm just saying that Tom Tillis, okay, outgoing senator, Republican senator who tore into Kristi Noem, who, by the way, I think yesterday went after Stephen Miller. Did he attack Stephen Miller? Tillis is an out-of-control, foaming at the mouth Democrat masquerading as a Republican. And we're supposed to put another one of these. We're going to buckle down and hold on to Cornyn, who will spend the next 6 years, his final term in the Senate, being an absolute lib. Right? This is why we put a guy like Paxton. And this is why we fight for Paxton, because this is what happens. You let these guys in here forever. Tillis, Cornyn, you know, Mitch McConnell, Thune, and they're all just, they're squishes, and that's the best way of putting it. Going after, he was complaining that Miller has way too much influence. Well, the problem is Miller's walking all over him intellectually, which is not difficult to do when you're fighting a guy like Tom Tillis. Okay. So Harris, who, of course, is no great luminary herself in the mental department, jumped in with her criticisms. Let me just tell you guys, I warned you of all of this.
Let me just say, I predicted a lot about what's happening right now. I'm not into saying I told you so, but we did see it coming.
Nice. Okay. Is she using her black voice again? Did you notice that? Can I say this? I'm right, because I'm gonna get reamed, but no, remember Kamala had different accents that she would use depending on where she was at. Hillary was famous for this too. They're just chameleons. They're complete and total chameleons. All right, I'm just noticing, whatever. I warned you about this, says Kamala Harris. Yeah, my God. Bullet dodged every time we see her up there. It's just a nice reminder of how lucky we are. Do we have any complaints? Well, anyway, when this parade of horribles was over, poor Jesse Jackson Jr., who I actually found sympathetic in all of this, he goes up there and this was at a more intimate family service on Saturday. This was held at the Rainbow Push Coalition, founded by his father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And this is this was a nice little rebuke. Well, I got to respect him for saying it.
Yesterday, I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson. He maintained a tense relationship with the political order, not because the presidents were white or black, but the demands of our message, the demands of speaking for the least of these, those who were disinherited, the damned, the dispossessed, the disrespected, demanded not Democratic or Republican solutions, but demanded a consistent, prophetic voice that at no point in time ever sold us out as a people.
Wow. Hot diggity dog. Sold us out as a people. Look, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say I don't think he's referring to Reagan or Trump. Okay. I bet you he's talking about Bill Clinton, about Barack Obama, and about Joe Biden. Okay? And by the way, he's a reasonably smart guy. This is a nicely written speech, eulogy. So, you know, he's not coming straight at you. You know what I mean? Absolutely perfectly said. Again, not going to be covered in the news. I got to run. Quick show today. Just goes right by. I know. I'll see you tomorrow, folks. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Have a great day.